And we see that God puts a high price tag on some things, if you will, in Ezekiel chapter 22. Ezekiel chapter 22. Remember, Ezekiel is in the Babylonian captivity. The reason that the Jewish people are in the captivity in Babylon is because they've turned their back on God. They're not doing what they were supposed to do. They'd gotten into idolatry. They'd gotten into false worship. They were just doing that which was right in their own eyes. And here in verse 30, here's God is speaking. He says, I sought for a man among them that should make up the hedge and stand in the gap before me for the land. So God's saying, look, I'm looking for somebody. I'm looking for a man. He's not looking for an army. He's not looking for a whole church. He's not looking for a whole convention. He's looking for one man to stand in a gap. And I sought for a man among them that should make up the hedge and stand in the gap before me for the land, that I should not destroy it. But I found, how many did he find? None. He couldn't find one man. He couldn't find one man in all of Israel. He couldn't find one man. You're like, but what about Ezekiel? Ezekiel's writing it. What about Jeremiah? What about Daniel? They were standing. But see, God's looking for one man. Do you know where He's looking for one man? And we'll say man and women, okay? He's looking for one man in your life. He's looking for one person in your life to stand up for Him. There's a gap, and it's called your life. There's a hedge. It's your life, and He needs you to stand in it. He doesn't need you sitting down. He doesn't need you laying down. He doesn't need you goofing off. He needs you standing in that place for Him. Does that make sense? If you won't stand up for God in your life, who will? Oh, well, you expect somebody else to. You expect a preacher to live right so that you can have a right life. That doesn't work. You want all the people around you to stand in their gap, but you don't want to stand in yours. No, it takes each and every one of us to stand in the gap. Here it comes for me, and we'll just use me as an illustration. I need to stand in my life. If we had everybody in the whole world standing shoulder to shoulder, where my place is, that's my gap. That's where I'm supposed to stand. And I'm supposed to live for God. Then when it comes next, then there's where I'm supposed to stand in my marriage. Evelyn has a husband, and I'm supposed to be the man that steps in and makes up that hedge and stands in that gap. And she in her place. And then it comes to the family. Our family needs a dad. Our family needs a man to stand there. Our family needs a mother to stand there, needs a woman to stand there. We need kids that are going to stand there, and then they grow up. As they're growing up, they're learning how to be men and women of God and to not quit and to stand in the gap that's their life and that's their family, their relationship, and then for their children. It's for every one of us. And God's looking. God's watching you. Oh, you expect everybody else to live for God. That's what it's sad. Most people that want to rail on the church expect everybody else to get upset when somebody else doesn't do something. Well, so-and-so did this and so-and-so did that. There's some things that have gone on here through the last maybe 6 months that's taken place. Just bothers me. Not anybody in the church, just some things that go on around here in the neighborhood just bothers me. And then I look at myself. Instead of always expecting somebody else to do what they're supposed to do, I need to make sure I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. God's looking for me to stand in my life. See, should I be able to expect that all the people in the church show up on time, pay attention, stay awake, read the Bible, pray, all those kind of things? Certainly, but I have to do it too. And that goes right back on you. Why do you expect the preacher to be the only one that walks with God, studies the Bible, prays? Come on. Why is it your parents are the only ones? Why is it that your kids are the only ones? No, every one of us has a responsibility to stand in that gap. Does it make sense? And God's looking for somebody. He's looking for a man. He's looking for somebody in particular. Man, we could go into a lot on that and we won't. Let's go now to 1 Samuel. 1 Samuel. This one will surprise you. Okay? Really, it'll surprise you. I think it'll surprise you. It surprised me. Because when I got 1 Corinthians chapter 16 and verse 13, it was like, that's kind of neat. Quit you like men, and that's just like, oh yeah, quit you like men, and somewhere in the Old Testament they said that too, and boy, that's got to be the people of God. Kind of strange, wasn't the people of God? Look with me in 1 Samuel chapter 4, look in verse 9. Verse number 7 says, and the Philistines were afraid, for they said, God is come into the camp. And they said, woe unto us, for there hath not been such a thing heretofore. Woe unto us! Who shall deliver us out of the hand of these mighty gods? These are the gods that smote the Egyptians with all the plagues in the wilderness. Verse 9, look here. This is what the Philistines are saying. Be strong and quit yourselves like men, O ye Philistines, that ye be not servants unto the Hebrews as they have been to you. Quit yourselves like men and fight. It's amazing how. In 1 Corinthians chapter 16, it's to the church, and we're supposed to quit like men. There's supposed to be some manhood. There's supposed to be something that is not going to quit. But yet the world has that. The world has an expectation of what not quitting is. I wonder how well we as Christians stack up to what some of the things in the world. You can compare yourself sometime. How about a Olympian? Somebody that's in the Olympics. Or somebody that's in the major league sports. Boy, many times you have major league sports. You got these men that are making multi-million-dollar a year just to throw a ball around for a couple hours on a Sunday. But yet the night before the game, somebody is making sure that they're in bed, in sleep, that they eat right. The players that go out and party around, sneak out and do all those kind of things, they're usually not the ones that make the big bucks. They're not the ones that last and have the longevity. He said one of the things about Tom Brady is how he is so disciplined in his work. And it's amazing how we as Christians, when it comes to read the Bible, pray, study, just to have devotion time with God, I don't feel like it. Oh, I'm tired. Oh, again? Come on. And the Philistines here are saying, hey, quit you like men. That's the only place that it shows up in the Bible besides 1 Corinthians. And it's almost like God's telling us in 1 Corinthians, hey, if the Philistines can put forth the effort, why can't you? Does it make sense? Come on. Why do we expect, it comes down to it. Why do we expect our military to have such a disciplined life, but then we in the spiritual army of the Lord have no discipline whatsoever? It's kind of strange, isn't it? So go with me. Let's go back here to 1 Corinthians in chapter 16. Just keep that in mind, that the world is looking for something, and the world's watching you. They want to see what kind of Christian you are. People take notice when our buildings, when the lights are on. They see how many cars are in the parking lot. And when it comes to this, there's a lot of things to try and help you with here, but when it comes to it, God's looking for a man to stand in the gap, and that would be in your life, your marriage, your children. That's in your church. God's looking for somebody to fill your seat, your position, where you're at. A lot of times we think it's these chairs. No, it's probably your prayer closet. You'll get more done in your prayer closet for your church. See, when you're here, you're supposed to worship God. You're here to get something from Him, if you will. You're here to encourage everybody else. In that prayer closet, that's where the work comes in. How about for our country? Quit you like men when